So, always got to do the obligatory intro. So we're going to talk about flags, capturing the flag, in fact, and this is now broken, but we're going to see how this works. I've kind of borked it on purpose to demonstrate what's going on. But the first thing I want to show you is actually the borders of the world. Some of you have already gone to the hard work to make some F boxes up there. That's totally fine. Please feel free to do that. But we discovered an easier way to make that happen. It's called set edges. So check it out. You can do world.setEdges. So if you haven't done that yet, congratulations. You can now be lazy just like me. You can set edges. You don't even have to say true or false. It just turns on a border that's just off screen. And you can also set properties for the edges. So I believe I have the Fisica documentation open here. And I'm not sure what it was called, so I'll just search it. Set edges friction and set edges restitution. So there's two more functions you can call from the world to give the edges sort of different properties of elasticity and of friction. Hey, set that restitution to 2 and watch what happens when you collide with one wall and you accelerate the bodies and watch it accelerate all around, and then I don't know what will happen, but it will be amusing, and you should try it out. Once you have this other technique, which is more important. So feel free to use that. There we go. And also note this other set edges. You can also give it sort of the offsets to push things into focus. So I can say, for example, 10, 10, width minus 10, height minus 10, to push everything in 10 to give it a 10 pixel wide visible border. So if I do the second one, I get this look here. Wait for it. There it is. Yeah, see how it's got 10 pixel black border all on the edges? There it is. Supposedly you could put in a 5th parameter, which is supposed to be color. I have yet to get it to work. So I don't know if it has to be like a hashtag. Maybe I'll try that. FF. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, but weird, it's got like little corners. So I guess they are just recs. Huh. Okay. Well, anyways, you can put a hashtag at the end of it and change the color as well. So fun times with set edges. Okay. Anyways, that's not what you came here for. You wanted to find out about capturing flags. So here's the story behind my capturing flags. So first of all, we'll talk about the flag itself. And I just want to let you know that this, if you have another way of this working, or you want to do it a different way and actually make it a physical thing that you drag around and stuff, that's okay. But I recommend just doing this technique. It's nice and simple. The flag is going to be an F box, and so is my player, although it could be any body. And here's some of the properties I'm going to set. Only a few of them are new, so most of this stuff you already know. So I'll just zoom in. First of all, I'm setting static to true. The flag itself will never move. And it's mostly just going to be a sensor or a switch. You can think of it as a switch. I think it's a good way to think of it as. So I'm going to set static to true. And then I'm setting the name. It's just a good habit to always set the name. If you forget to set the name of something, at some point down the road when you least expect it, you might get a weird null pointer. And that's because if you don't set the name, then the name property is null. So it's not a bad idea to set name for everything. Check these out here. Woo, these are pretty fancy. Set fill. Did you know that you could use set fill to give it a color and a transparency? That's pretty neat. So if I say 0, 0 for set fill and also set stroke, if I say 0, 0 for that, it is an invisible F box. And guess what? I can even go further to say set sensor true. And not only is it invisible now, but it is also intangible. So it's not visible, it's not tangible, you can't feel it, but it still generates contacts. So could you imagine what you could use an invisible, intangible object for? You could use it as like a sensor to trigger things to happen. So for example, maybe you're making your Indiana Jones 2D platformer game, and you want to trigger a rolling ball to fall down a ramp to squish you. Well, you could use an invisible, intangible sensor block and check for collisions with that in the player. So just to demonstrate it, I'm going to turn off the attach image right now and just stick it in here. I'll give the stroke, I'll put that at 255. So if the second parameter is 255, that's its transparency. That means it's completely not transparent. So what we'll see is a transparent fill and a black solid border. And I've turned off the image that's attached. So you'll see that we get, there it is. So you can see the background colors showing through, and there it is. It's got the black border around it. And just to demonstrate this number, hey, if I set it to, say, 100, that's getting closer and closer to 0, right? So it's going to get more and more transparent. So what do you imagine you'll see if I run that now? Probably just like a fainter outline, right? And sure enough, I run it. I wish the turnaround time for running it wasn't so slow. But yeah, it's getting kind of fainter and fainter. Set it to 50, it's going to get fainter and fainter because it's getting more and more transparent. There it is, getting so very transparent. If I set it to 0, it's invisible. Of course, I've set the fill already to black, but completely transparent. So you'll see no fill and no stroke now. So it's invisible, but it's still there, and it will still generate contact events. You can also attach a flag image. So I also have this attached flag pic. It's just a picture of a flag. By the way, if you want to find a lovely flag picture, I recommend doing this. Check it out. In my, I got to find where I search for flags. Here we go. In Google Images, if you search for a flag, it doesn't even have to be icon. Just search for flag. And in Tools, you can set things. So if you press click on Tools, you can set the image to look for transparent images. And then the size, you can choose icon size. And you can choose exactly size if you want as well. And you can take a look at some of the different flags that you can find. I never thought of using a country flag. You could have you can get all political with like an American flag and some other country's flag. And it could be like, U.S. versus Canada or something. Who knows what you want to do there. But, you can have some fun with the different flags. The important thing is to note, though, that whatever flag you pick, if you get a transparent image, that's great. Hey, look, this image isn't actually transparent. What a ripoff. But I bet you'll find one fairly quickly of, hey, the Slovenia flag. Nice. There you go. So that one has like a transparent. You can tell by the checkerboard pattern. So that saves you time if you get a transparent image. And you know what? If you get a transparent image and you attach an image with transparency, that overrides all the background color, for better or for worse. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but if I was to attach this picture, then even if I had set the color to black, those black pixels of the F-box won't show through. That's kind of annoying. I'll demonstrate here. I'll go back to the code. Nope. There we go. So I've attached this image of a flag, and if I was to even set the color to 255 and make it not transparent, I'll zoom in just to make sure everyone can see. Right? The flag F-box should now be black. I'm attaching a picture with transparency in it, but watch what happens. It's just going to be the picture of the flag, no black in the background. So the transparency pixels override. And what's even weirder is I can resize this image to be even smaller than the F-box. My F-box is 50 by 50. So if I shrink it down to, say, 25 by 25. So small picture, smaller than the box. Watch what happens when we run it. Still overrides. It's like the fill doesn't even happen. So it either shows an image or it shows the color, not both. Which will make things hard when we capture the flag. When our character, our player, goes and captures the flag, we can't just attach image to the player, because then the player will just look like the flag. I guess that's not too big a deal, right? Like you could just be the flag running around after that, but it doesn't really look like the original project. So just to let you know, that's going to be a bit of a problem to overcome. But no big deal. Thanks, Harry. Yeah, you just anticipated exactly what we're going to do. So we are going to draw our own flag. And this is going to go back to that question, which I think is something we all are struggling with, um, is how do you just do old-fashioned processing with Fisica now? And so, like, just drawing a picture of a flag was something we could do no problem. We drew animated GIFs and like all sorts of stuff, right? So why don't we just draw a flag on top of things? Perfect. That's exactly what we're gonna do. So let me just add in one more thing. I'll put the flag back to full size. I'll just mention that here's my player. It's really not important because mine's going to be very different than yours, or at least a little bit different. But just so you can see that it's nothing special about the player. It's just your regular F box and just some standard things going on in here. So the exciting thing is now going to be in the context started. I think this is what, now that you know about things like set censor and the set fill and set stroke. Let's take a look now at the whole context started function and see what the collision should look like. This is not complete, by the way. Still some things to add in. So let's take a look at that. Oh, check out this. So here's my context started function. Looks pretty similar, right? It's got the if statement where I'm seeing if it contains player one, if it contains flag. And of course, you'll have to do two sets of if statements for player one and flag two, or however you want to call that, a player two and flag one, or however you want to call that. So like this is obviously just one flag and half of the work you have to do, but it's going to be a mirror image either way. And check out what you can do. You can detach an image from a thing like the flag. So if I have a collision, a contact between the player and the flag, I can just say detach image. And just to show what's going on here, I'm going to go back and have my flag so that it is visible. So, I have that already. It's going to be a white box. So let's run this and just see what happens. I'll zoom out. So, I have to drag. So I'll click and drag it. And there it goes. I detach the image, and now you see the white box underneath. You don't really want to see that white box, though, do you? It should just be like, I grab the flag, and it's gone now. So that's why we set the transparency to 0 on the box. So once we detach the image, it doesn't really matter if it's what number is here. If it's transparent, then when we detach the image, there's just an invisible box underneath. So now watch. And go, bloop, and the flag goes away. So I can make the flag disappear on a contact with the flag now. And that's just the beginning of it. So what else can we do? So one thing that people have tried, I don't know if in this block, but in my last block, people were kind of messing around. They were like, we'll do p1.attach image flag pic, or whatever you call yours. So if there's a contact, detach the flag picture on one body, attach it on the other body. But as we said, that overrides everything, right? So if you have a blue player, or in my case, a black player, and it grabs the flag, it just turns into the flag now. And it's kind of awkward and strange that you've turned into the flag. That's not really how capture the flag works. So that's where Harry's suggestion is going to come in handy. We can just draw the flag on top of the player, and then both can exist. Both can be there. So how do we make that happen? How do we know that the collision has occurred? So we can use a Boolean variable. And very fittingly, very appropriately, the name for Boolean variables that act as switches that you can turn on and off are flag variables. That's literally what they're called in programming. We use a Boolean variable to turn code on and off. It comes from old-fashioned nautical semaphore technology where people used to have these flags, and they would stand on the deck of a ship to communicate to other ships, and they'd have like flags, and they'd do like these I don't know, K-pop moves, but they meant different letters and stuff, and they would put up these things called semaphores, and they would use them as flags to communicate. So you could use a flag variable to communicate to if statements to turn them on and off. So it's a little bit tricky, so let me show you how it works. Basically, you can make a Boolean variable, and a Boolean variable, you might remember this from last year. We had Boolean alive, for example, to say if something's either alive or not. There's no sort of halfway, I'm sort of alive. You're yes or no, and this will be whether or not you've captured the flag. So what should we call that variable? P1, I don't know what to call it. Flag, I'll just say flag captured. You would need to have a blue and a red flag captured variable for each flag. But right now I just got one flag. So I'm just going to have flag captured. And flag captured is automatically false at the beginning. Any Boolean variable you make is false. Which makes sense, right? At the beginning of the game, have you captured the flag? No, that'd be a pretty boring game if you start off, yay, you win. No good. So luckily, this default value is false. Flays. How many times have you spelled flays when you type false? It's like an epidemic for me. Flays. I want to just I knew a programmer once that you can, in certain programming language, you can define new meanings for words. So he defined flays as false. So even if he typed in flays, it still worked. Terrible idea though, because it's so confusing when you're reading through it. And this is the kind of stupid things you can do in programming language like C that give it a bad name. But it's also some of the cool things you can do. You can redefine the plus symbol and the time symbol and all sorts of things. It's really cool. But anyways, here we go. So this is going to mean yes or no, have I captured the flag yet? So the game starts off as false. I have not captured the flag. So then what you can do is, instead of doing some image attaching, you can set that variable to true. So flag captured equals true. So there it is. That on its own does nothing. That's just sadly an 8-bit Boolean variable. It could just be a single bit, a 0 and a 1, but it uses 8 in Java. So whoops, a bit of a waste. But it's just a single variable that's turning on and off. That itself does nothing. So if I go do this, nothing has changed. And I just want to really hammer home the point that that's simply a switch that's turned off and on. And it's not connected to anything. Has anyone ever seen that episode of Friends where Monica found the switch that did nothing? And she takes apart the whole apartment trying to figure out where the switch is? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Some people know Friends now. If you've never seen Friends, it's okay. Don't feel bad. It's actually pretty... It's all right. It's all right. It's a solid when you got nothing else to binge watch to put on. Anyways, this switch is not connected to anything. So just like if you had a switch that's not wired in and you flick it on and off, you're not going to expect it to do anything, right? So we got to plug in this switch into some if statements to turn them on and off. So I'm going to put in my draw function, an if statement that says, hey, if flag captured equals true. And now this is an if statement that I can turn on and off with the flag captured variable. And some of you know that this is already true or false, so you don't actually have to put in the equal true. You can just say if flag captured. And that just reads like an English sentence, and so I really like that. Anytime you can get your code to just read like a sentence, you've done a good job at making excellent code for anyone who needs to read it, like myself. But if that weirds you out, you're I don't quite get that, then feel free to check to see if it equals true or not. And then you can put some stuff in here. So for example, we could draw a picture of a flag. And it's just like back in the, target clicking game or whatever game where we started learning about drawing images. You've already probably loaded the P image for the flag picture because you attached it, right? So you can just use that same picture. Mine's called flag pic. And I'll just say image. That's the function that draws pictures, right? Back to good old-fashioned processing. Flag pic. And then where do you draw it? I'm going to draw it at player1.getX. That's the player 1's x coordinate. And player1.getY. Oh. And there you go. So just draw the picture in the right place. I mean, pretty much the right place.
Oh, are we still using the image?
Yeah, I'm using the same picture. So that picture is here. This one here. That's just the same picture.
So we're still using the image, we're just drawing it onto the...
Yeah, you got it. Because we've attached it, but that doesn't mean that picture is now reserved or unavailable anymore. It's still there, so we can still use it. So we're just using the good old image function where that's how we drew our animated GIFs or our asteroids or all those different things. It's just image. And that will turn on when I set flag captured to true. So we'll detach the image from the flag f box, and then we'll start and we'll turn on this variable, which will make it so we start drawing the flag on top of the player. Let's just see that in action, just to bring it full circle. If I run this, I'll go and take it over here. It will detach the picture from the F box, which is now invisible. I'm going to start drawing it on top of the player. Looks pretty good. So the last part of it is, well, how do I score a goal now? Or how do I bring it back to my end zone? And that's just another function that's going to have the switch that's built into it. Oh, not another function. Another if statement that's going to have the flag captured switch. So you could put it in a different place if you want. You can make another if statement. You could also just stick it inside of this if statement here. So I already have if flag captured is true. So I could just put inside of here another if statement. So it would both have to be true. And if I get to my end zone, so if player1.getX is greater than whatever your number you want for your end zone, I'll put width minus 100, say, to indicate that it's 100 from the width. Does that make sense, folks? That if statement? Yeah. I could also say if it's greater than like 500, for example, or whatever the number is where your end zone starts. Then you can score a point. So this is where you brought the flag back to your end zone, right? Flag captured is true, and you've returned to your end zone. So what do I do? Well, first I'm going to set flag captured. Oh gosh, I captured to false because I got it, and I want to send it back to the beginning. So I'm going to basically turn off this if statement. I'm going to flip the switch off. Before I do that, though, I'm going to also say score plus plus or something, like add 1 to my score. And I'll also reattach the flag back to the flag image back to the flag F box. So I'll say flag dot attach image flag pick. So basically, I will increase my score by 1 and put everything back the way it was. By saying flag.attach image, I'm going to make the flag reappear back at my static F box that was the collision point for the flag. And by saying flag captured equals false, I'm going to turn off the drawing of the flag on top of my player. Does that make sense? Yeah, Harry, thanks for your question. Yeah, so this, I'll show you exactly what that does. So right now, I've already used attach image. Some of you might have used it as well, right in here. So what it does is it attaches a picture to an F body. For example, in the example project, you know, with the things raining down from the sky and the ramps, the angry bird picture, we attached it to an F circle. So that just glues the picture onto the body. So when we start the project, the reason why we see the yellow flag is because I said flag.attach flag pick. And so right now that F body has the flag attached to it. When I go to have this collision, and I want to make sure everyone kind of comes in for the finale here. This is the big finale. We're going to just kind of summarize all those things. So right now, the flag pick is attached to the flag F body, that invisible sort of sensor. When I go and have a collision with it, let's just review what's going to happen. So if we have a collision between a player and a flag body, then we detach the image from the flag, and we set flag capture to true, and setting flag capture to true turns on this code here in the draw function. So flip back. So what we see is the yellow flag looks like it jumps from here to there. Just to make that really clear what's happening, I'm going to make it so that the flag F body is not invisible. I'm going to make it a white box. So watch what happens. And I'll scroll back. We're going to detach the image from the flag and turn on the flag captured variable. So see how it's now, it's lost the picture? And it's now like white box there, and this flag has suddenly appeared on top of the player, but really it's just because I said flag captured equals true, which turns on this if statement in the draw function. And so it's drawing that image on top of our player. Yeah? And it also turns on this if statement because that's inside of that if statement, right? So now all this code is actually happening. So it's going to check to see if I get to 500 for the x coordinate. So as I get there, watch what's going to happen. If I get there, it should increase my score. That's the score there, the 0. It's going to attach the image back onto flag, and it's going to turn flag captured off or set it to false, so it should stop showing it, and it will work. Bloop. So all three things happen there. The reason why this appears here now is because of flag.attachImage. The reason why it's not on my player anymore is because I set flag capture to false, because that was being controlled by this thing, which only happens when flag captured is true. And the reason why my score, went up by 1 is because I said score plus plus. And then that won't happen again, or at least not until I capture the flag again, because now flag captured is false. And so it doesn't happen anymore. So I have to go back and turn the switch back on again to make it happen again. I can do it over and over again. Whoop. There we go. Now there's still some problems here. This is not bad. And if this is what you got going on, then I'm pretty happy for our first project. But there is a little bit of weirdness that I haven't quite sorted out. And if you notice, check this out. When I capture the flag, watch what happens with my player. Look at that beautiful flag, centered so nicely on my F box. Doesn't that look nice? But do you notice that there's a little bit of like a shifting of positions here? So if I go grab the flag, the actual position of the F box isn't where the flag is. It's the actual F box is there. So how come it's so nicely centered here and not on the F box? So this is not essential. If you're already feeling saturated right now, if you're like, oh, too much information, it's not a big deal. But if you're interested to come along a little bit further, I'll explain what's going on here. And it's not really a problem we have to solve right now, but it is a bit of a weird thing. And that is image mode center. Remember our good friend image mode center? It makes it so when we draw images, the X and Y we give it are the center of the image instead of the corner. So it turns out if we do that, that's great. It makes it really good when we go to draw our image. It centers it nicely. But it messes up all our attached images. When we attach an image to an F box, we have image mode center turned on. It kind of messes it up. It makes it drawn in the corner. And it's just kind of conflicting just with the natural way Fisica does things. So it turns out there's a nice little hack you can do to fix things. I think, I'm going to try for the first time live right now. We'll find out if it works. All of our F bodies are drawn right here, world.draw. Your flag, your players, your walls, they're all drawn in world.draw. So you know what I think might work out nicely? If before world.draw, I say image mode, I think it's corner. And then after world.draw, I say image mode center. Center. And then I think this will fix it so that when it goes to draw the world stuff, it uses this. And then when it goes to draw the other stuff, it uses that. Do you think it'll work? Let's see. I don't know. I just thought about it while I was talking, so let's find out. I think so. Boop. Yeah, it worked. Yay for weird hacks kind of making things work. So if you want to sort of make that work nicely with Fisica and with drawing images, that's the way to do it. You could also just ignore all this image mode corner and center stuff and just manually reposition the flag by like subtracting some stuff from it to like move it into the center. But this is pretty good. I think this works pretty well. So just use image mode corner for all your world stuff and then image mode center for all your other stuff. Oh, hey, here's one last thing. This is a question a student had from my last block. They got the flag drawn underneath their player. And I just want to let you know that good old draw function works exactly like it did when we drew that robot last year, or any project we've done this year, where the first shapes you code are drawn at the bottom, and the things you code later on are drawn on top of it. So if you have world.draw at the top, and then you have other things drawn underneath, lower down in the code, then the things at the bottom get drawn on top of the world. But if you put things before world.draw, then they get drawn underneath the world, all the f bodies basically. So if I have all my if statements for drawing images, and I put them above world.draw, the flags will get drawn underneath everything, unless they're attached. But my sort of manually drawn stuff will get hidden. So just be careful about that. All your separate graphics need to be sort of planned to either be before or after, depending on where you want them. So for example, background 100, bad idea to put that after world.draw. If you do that, you won't see any of your things. They'll be invisible. They're there, and Fisica is calculating them, and physics are happening right now. It's just you're covering them up, so you don't really see anything. So just be aware of that sort of layering. Anyways, I hope that helps. What do you think? Is there any questions about that technique, or is that pretty good? Maybe we can make progress. Just so you know, on the side whiteboard over there, check it out. I got some of those awesome new functions. So attach image is maybe not a new one, but I'll put it up there just in case. You give it a picture as a parameter. Detach image is fantastic to sort of make the flag captured, if you will. Set fill and set stroke, you can give it 2 parameters, one of which will be a transparency. And then set sensor true means that the body that you're calling that from will be like a ghost. You'll be able to pass through it, which is really cool. Hey, guess what? In the future, we're going to use set sensor to make doors. So if you want to like have a some kind of key and open a door, you can set sensor true to an F body to make it suddenly become intangible, so you can pass through things. I had a student make a whole. I don't know if you've ever played platformer games where you hit a switch and like platforms turn on and off. This is classic from the Mario franchise, where they usually have like some invisible platforms that are kind of outlined in dotted lines, but you jump on a switch and then they turn into actual blocks. That's something that students have done in previous projects. So set sensor is just lots of possibilities. You can do a lot of fun things with set sensor as we go forward. So keep that in mind as a cool thing. Anyways, I'm going to turn off the video. Bye, everybody.